Life is like arriving late to a movie, having to figure out what was going on without bothering everybody with a lot of questions, and then being unexpectedly called away before you find out how it ends. That's a quote by Joseph Campbell. So Joseph John Campbell, the renowned professor, author, anthropologist, speaker, and mythologist, was born on March the 26th, 1904 in White Plains, New York. He is best known for his work in the areas of comparative mythology and comparative religion, as well as being particularly well known for his theory of the hero's journey. Many popular books, TV programs, and movies, they've all been inspired by his scholarship. You may have heard of one of these in particular, because it would be Star Wars. And George Lucas had this to say: "I came to the conclusion after American Graffiti is that what's valuable for me is to set standards, not show people the world the way it is." Around the period of this realization, it came to me that there really was no modern use of mythology. The Western was possibly the last generically American fairy tale telling us about our values. And once the Western disappeared, nothing has ever taken its place. In literature, we were going off into science fiction, so that's when I started doing more strenuous research on fairy tales, folklore, and mythology. And I started reading Joe's books. Before that, I hadn't read any of Joe's books. It was very eerie because in reading The Hero with a Thousand Faces, I began to realized that my first draft of Star Wars was following classic motifs. So I modified my next draft of Star Wars according to what I'd been learning about classical motifs and made it a little bit more consistent. Young Joseph Campbell's own hero's journey began when his father brought him to see Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, when he became instantly obsessed with Native American culture. He read every book on American Indians at the local library that he could get his hands on before he was 12, and he began frequenting the American Museum of Natural History. Joe excelled in high school and went on to Columbia University, earning degrees in both English and medieval literature. He traveled to Paris after college and became heavily influenced by the writings of James Joyce. He struck up a friendship with Joyce's publisher, Sylvia Beach, who explained to Joe the author's concept of the monomyth, the idea that every human is living out their own journey of discovery. This theory became the basis of Campbell's life's work. While teaching at Sarah Lawrence College in New York, he wrote his first ever bestseller, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which was released in 1949. Using Joyce's concept of the monomyth and anthropologist Arnold van Gennep's outline of rites of passage, Campbell explains his vision of the hero's journey myth, a transformative tale of triumph that can be found in every culture throughout the ages. The term was not restricted to literal lifesavers or warriors. Joe used the word to describe anyone with the courage to follow their true calling, meet the challenges along the way, obtain the needed knowledge and skills, and then use that experience and wisdom for the benefit of the community. Slaying the dragon or defeating the monster was symbolic of conquering the selfish nature of the ego. TV journalist Bill Moyers was fascinated by Joseph Campbell's ideas and conducted 24 hours of interviews with him in 1986 to 1987 at George Lucas's Skywalker Ranch in Northern California. The final session took place at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, where Campbell had been entranced by Native American artifacts as a young boy and set on his own path. Joseph Campbell died suddenly of cancer shortly afterwards on October 30th, 1987. He was 83 years old. The Moyers interviews, they were whittled down to 6 hours and became one of the highest rated and most watched programs in PBS history. His book sales also skyrocketed like he'd never experienced during his lifetime. But since he and his wife lived in a small one-bedroom apartment by choice, it probably wouldn't have mattered to him, at least financially. Now, the phrase most associated today with Joseph Campbell is "follow your bliss," but it's not intended in the hedonistic manner that it may seem. His Californian assistant Jonathan Young explained, both his critics and some of his fans have misunderstood the phrase. It isn't go have a good time, it's pay attention to the still, small voice, to that unique calling that seems to know your name. It is the seeker's life. It can be a life of incredible hardship and sacrifice, but there is a kind of joy in being in sync with your nature, with a sense of purpose. So I really hope you liked that video. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below. This is Highlight History. It's a relatively new channel. It would be a great service to us if you subscribed and hit that like button. Also leave a comment to let us know how we're doing. And as always, thank you for watching.